How can you love others if you can't love yourself? But how can you love yourself if you don't know who you are? I've been there for many, many years now. I lost myself. I lost my identity. And looking back to it now, I know it all started when I began exploring the world. I moved to New York City by myself, studied musical theater, and was thrown in a, to me, completely new world. It was a very tough and intense time during which I didn't really have a social life. I felt like my personality and character were being broken down, especially in school. We had to question anything and everything about everything. So we just had to really get to the root of performing and who we are as performers. It was just really hard, and in general, it was a tough world out there, and so little time to learn so many new things. I just began to lose the core of who I was. I played so many different characters, and I could have told you everything about them, but I just started forgetting who I was. So while I had to figure out life in New York City, my inside was put on hold. I stopped doing things I loved to do, because now it was all about getting out there and surviving. And I mean, I have stayed and survived in the Amazon before, so I was in the real jungle, but New York City, this was just a different kind of jungle. I was so lost, and I let just all kinds of people put me in all kinds of boxes, or put labels on me, or tell me who I was. You know, even the question you get a lot as a musical theater performer or student, oh, you study musical theater, so what are you first, a singer, actor, or dancer? And I was so confused when I first heard that. I was like, I don't, what do you mean? Like, I'm confused. I do it all. That's why I study musical theater, right? But apparently you have to be really good at one. Not just really good, but outstanding at one, and then just good at the other two. But I didn't know. I was just good at them all, but not jaw-dropping outstanding at one. Just thinking about that question, it literally made me question myself and question my ability, my talent, my identity, and basically everything about me. I had some leaders in the past tell me that I'm manipulative and that I'm too decisive because I always knew exactly what I wanted and I fought for it. So if I put something in my mind, I would just go for it. But I was told that that was selfish, so I stopped deciding. I stepped out in the world thinking, as a good person, whatever that means, I have to always step back and give other people room to choose who they are and what they want. And yeah, and I thought I just have to give them space to do that, and that's that. So, what do you do if you don't know who you are anymore? Well, you have other people tell you who you are. You start putting your value and your identity in people you love, people who love you, but it's not that easy. The dangerous thing about that is that they are people. They're human beings just like you and I. They make mistakes and will most probably hurt you at some point. I walked on that path of slowly losing myself for many years now, and it's not something that happens overnight. It's something that is just slowly sneaking in. I felt something was wrong. It's really hard to describe, but I had no idea how to get out of there or what to do in order to find myself again. I knew exactly who could give me my identity. I knew that I had to go back to the roots. Back to the one who created me. I just didn't know how to go about that. Honestly, it was so much easier and so much more convenient for me to just put my trust in people around me and just get whatever I needed elsewhere instead of from God. Now that I think of it, it's almost like a drug addiction. I knew I was personally and spiritually not in the right place, but I just couldn't get out of it. As if I was stuck in cement. So the only thing I could think of doing was praying. I was praying for change or breakthrough or whatever would get me out of there. And I did that over months, even years. But nothing happened. It was during a time where I wanted to get married. But I couldn't because I was lost. And think about it. Why would I marry somebody if I don't know who I am? It doesn't make sense. And on top of that, I was lost. I didn't know what I wanted. I wasn't complete, or at least I didn't feel complete in myself. And I didn't know how to get there. How to step back into my calling. In my spirit, I felt very strongly about, that God put a stop sign in my way. Some sort of red light. I just didn't understand or realize what the meaning of that was. I knew it was not the time for me to get married, even though I really, really desired it. But instead of asking God, in my head I just tried to make sense of why there was this stop sign and what to do about it. I just kept pushing it in front of me while going about my relationships, going about my career, my everyday life. It just made that walk of life so much harder to push that freaking sign in front of me. It was so confusing for myself. It was confusing for the people around me. It didn't make sense. So sometimes I would decide certain things and people were so confused. It didn't even make sense to myself. I did seek God, but I didn't fully trust Him to provide for me in every area of my life. I guess from past experiences, I was afraid He would take the people and things that I loved away from me. So I focused on them instead and just let them fill these voids that God so desperately wanted to fill in me. I never got to the point in my life where God was the only option. So I always went with the other options. I kept telling myself, I gotta run to God and grow closer to Him eventually. Yet, I didn't know how. I just kept saying, someday I will grow closer to Him. But the days became weeks, the weeks became months, and the months became years of just pushing that stop sign in front of me, still not knowing what it was for. What I didn't realize was that I had huge trust issues with God. So I knew that one day I had to confront it. But I guess I was unconsciously avoiding it. Growing up, I was always very positive, strong-minded, and happy. The word can't was not in my vocabulary. If I put something in my mind, I would go and get it. I was a lioness, a fighter. I was an encourager because I knew my worth in Christ. I didn't think twice about whether I was valuable. So how could I get back to that? I said, I did seek God, I did go to church, and I prayed, yet nothing happened. I had my highs, my lows, I was happy, I was sad, but something was missing. The real joy, the deeply in God-rooted joy of life in me was gone. And also the love and passion to create what I was created for. So one day I had a conversation with my mom, and she said, Anja, if you want to get out of it, the first simple thing you can do is open up about your struggles and your circumstances and have your friends pray about it. Share with the people what you're going through instead of carrying it on your own. So I did. A few months later, my whole world broke apart. And I was in the most hopeless place I've ever been. The people I put my worth and identity in were being taken away from me. They abandoned me. And I was left with nothing. I just wanted to die. I wanted God to come and take me home. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a car. Didn't have a place. Didn't know who I was. I had no appetite and lost so much weight that I became dangerously underweight. I had nothing. Nothing but Jesus. Great. What do I do with this now? I didn't put my trust in him before, so I can't just put my trust in him now. It was a long process of going back to who God is and who he says I am. It took a lot of breaking down lies that I believed all my life. Lies about myself, about relationships, about the people around me. Things I thought came from God turned out to be religious lies. For all these years, I just didn't know because I was not constantly and profoundly seeking God to remind myself who I am in him and who he is. We are human beings. We keep forgetting who God is and how big he is and his love for us. That's why I worship. Not to remind God how great he is, but to remind myself how great he is. My dark season and desperation brought me back to the heart of worship. I learned what it means to fully seek God. Fully seeking God literally is a detox or a renewal of the mind and the spirit. It means studying his word, seeking people to walk this dark path of life with, that is super important. Researching and listening to people's stories about how they overcame this intense season. I learned so much from other people's stories. It's crazy. And I realized how important speaking out loud the promises of God in the Bible is. To speak them over my life on a daily basis. It was and still is a really long and painful process because I kept running back to find my identity in people, since it just seemed quicker and easier not having to face the pain of growth. I felt like it would take forever to get my identity back. So I went for the shortcut so many times. But every time I just hit the ground harder and needed God's love even more intensely. But God is faithful. And he's right there with me. And I learned that it's okay not to trust God. It's okay. Because he does everything in our own pace and he's very gentle with our hearts. Whenever negative thoughts attacked me, I called a friend and asked them to pray for me. Or I worshiped and read God's promises in the Bible out loud until I felt peace again. It took me a few months to get there, but now, little by little, one mini baby step at a time, I am stepping back into my identity by knowing, by speaking out loud, and slowly believing how valuable and how strong of a woman I am, and how much bigger his plans are for me than the ones I have for myself. He wants to change the world for the better through me. Wow. Wherever you're at, God sees you. He's by your side. All he wants is to have a relationship with you and help you through this difficult time of your life. Just start by speaking positive things and his promises over yourself, even when, no, especially when you don't believe them. If you're not strong enough yet to do that, don't worry. Just have some friends speak them over you on a regular basis until you can do it yourself. I promise you, it will have an effect on your soul and spirit, and you will grow stronger and deeper in your faith without even noticing it. One thing I know, God is going somewhere with this.